I wanted to get your thoughts now on the season itself, because you're involved with the PFAA. I know you engage directly with CrossFit on a regular basis. And we'll start here. Where do you think good progress has been made in, and I don't know what the right phrasing I'm looking for is, but good progress in making the season better overall?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, we can, myself included, without a doubt, can get so wrapped up in, okay, that's fixed, what's next? And you just don't stop and smell the roses and see progress. I think what's really tough is the appeals process. I listened to your podcast with Dave Eubanks, the appeals process for the online competitions, open and quarters. And I want to see it improve, right? Like, where my mind immediately goes, if you were to ask me, what did you think about the appeals process? I'd tell you the things that I think wrong or how to improve them and so on. But I also remember a time when, we would complain about athletes that made it to regionals that weren't ready for regionals because of the skills that were and the workouts from the open. Right. And, there's no running, there's no high skill gymnastics movements, there's no heavy weights. It's just burpees, 95-pound thrusters, chest to bars, and double unders. You're getting people to the regionals, and they've only had one video reviewed, if any. And this, I remember this from 2013 regionals, 2014 regionals. And now we have a situation where, everyone that's made semis has had every video looked at. The workouts this year at quarters, love them or hate them, were certainly more regional-esque. There was heavy weights in there. There were tough skills. I guess we didn't have shuttle runs. We didn't have shuttle runs in our quarterfinal, but we had them in the open. You did aerobic workout, 20 minutes of rowing, and GHDs. So I think there is progress there. And although I don't think I'm not going to be the person to ring the bell and say the appeals process and the video review process for online is perfect. If we take a step back and let's say just rewind 3 years or 5 years, it is better. And I think, they are moving in the right direction there. I do think that even the strength of field for the semifinals, how they've changed the number of spots per semi that go to the games. I don't think that system's perfect. You'll never find a perfect system. But again, that was an issue for years where, there's this consideration of, this, there was a time where it was the Australian women, 2013, 14, 15, and even maybe arguably now if Cara and Tia were there, were really strong, but they only got 3 women went. Or there'd be specific regions in North America that maybe the South was weaker than Central East, but they both got the same spots to the games. And that was frustrating for everyone. It's you want to, and what's tough is you're balancing when you're looking at that, you're balancing, you want representation from areas, just like at the Olympics, you want multiple flags in the lanes at every event, but you also want the best in the world there. And that balance, you have to strike a balance there. You're never going to strike it perfectly, because but the Olympics, you just wanted the fastest swimmers, they'd all just be American. It would just be an American swimming pool at the Olympics, essentially. And
maybe some Australians. Yeah. Let's give the Aussies a little love. Right. Maybe they have an Australian. Yeah. Come on.
But the fastest swim meet in the world is the Olympic trials in America, right? And be the same with weightlifting. It'd mostly be Chinese and Eastern Bloc European countries and so on. And so, so at the CrossFit Games, what we want, what everyone wants, is the best people there, but you do still want some worldwide representation, because you can't just have, because people have said, why don't they just combine all the semi leaderboards and send the 40 best athletes to the games? I'm then you're just doing the games twice, right? Yeah. That'd be almost like saying, why don't we send 3 athletes to or 400 athletes around the world to a mini games in May, and then 40 to a real games in August? It's no, you do need, even if maybe the individual from Africa or the individual from 2 individuals from South America or Asia, maybe they wouldn't have qualified in the other semis, but it's there needs to be some representation from everywhere. And so anyway, the strength of field, the world ranking, huge steps in the right direction. Even just the existence of a world ranking, other than, essentially what the world ranking was before was, well, how'd you do at the games? And now it's a little more nuanced than that. Those are 2 huge steps in the right direction. And I think those will just continue to be kind of tweaked and refined, and hopefully get better every year.
Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side of that, what are some pressing needs to improve? I know you can touch on it again. I know you mentioned it in Georgia, the movement guide, or in addition to the rule book, but any other pressing changes that you would like to be, see in next year or even beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, I could maybe pause the podcast and pull up my my list if you want, but yeah, the movements, I think if we're looking at, here's the question: is this sort of like what are the initiatives that the PFA are need to work on, or is this more like, if I had a magic wand, what would I fix?
I think magic wand.
Yeah, because I think you guys have done a good job from the PFAA of distilling down what are the most pressing things that you can have an impact on right away. Athlete safety, some of the athlete resources, and some of the things that athletes as a whole have a very unique perspective that you can hit on right away, and are, I don't want to say a low barrier to entry, but it's an easier ask for inclusion versus like wholesale changes.
Yeah, and that's kind of, trying to, to give a little like PFA chat here, which is the Professional Fitness Athletes Association, like the athlete association union type thing. The idea there is to build an association, right? And if you look at any sport that has a players union or players association, I'm pretty sure if you ask them, hey, would you like to just disband this and not have it anymore, they'd say no, right? And so
Yeah.
so if anyone asks, oh, do we really need this, I'm like, well, ask the sports that have them and ask them, would they just prefer to just get rid of it? And I think they would say no, because the athlete associations in those other sports do good work for the athletes, and so obviously getting it off the ground and getting it functioning, and getting it to a place where it's potentially there's some form of generating some income to then pay staff to do the work is something we're slowly working towards. And in order to build that momentum, build that trust, build that name recognition, we're going to have some meetings at semis, have a meeting at the games, and try to just like continue to build that awareness and trust. And in doing so, like, you really, exactly what you said, kind of tackling some low hanging fruit, tackling some things that are maybe not as intense in the man hours, and maybe not as controversial is the right word, but just like simple, like, hey, everyone should agree that this is something that's valuable to athletes and to the competitions, and here you go. Just to sort of show the types of things we can do, and then we can start to tackle maybe some more pressing or challenging issues. Magic wand, I'd say I'd love to have a structured and organized judging certification. I think would be huge. That's a
Mm-hmm.
that's a full business, right? Like, someone has to run that
Yeah.
like a business. So there's levels of judges with varying degrees of experience that have taken in-person and online courses that are being reviewed at every single competition by a head judge, and then all of that data is being compiled. And so a lot of these things happen at Rogue or at the games, Wadapalooza, but there's not like a central source of truth where, oh, Stacy has judged at these competitions. These were the reviews from her head judge at these competitions. These are the areas for improvement. These are maybe the athlete reviews of her from those competitions. These are the courses she's taken. These are the areas where she's willing to travel and the dates, and then she can be hired, right? And like that whole system and resource. And then in doing that and in creating that, what would need to happen is standardization of movement, right? It'd be pretty hard to run a weekend course teaching judges how to judge if you didn't have a list of, well, let's go through the thruster. It's like, well, maybe we should just have a consistent standard for the thruster and a consistent standard for is it sandbag clean two shoulder or over shoulder? Let's just go two shoulder because it's actually easier to judge, because you don't have people kind of, leaning back and rolling it off their chest. So you start to like make those decisions because you're running a business to coach judges how to be great judges and consistent judges so that the competitions can use them. So that would be my magic wand, is for that, all of a sudden, like abracadabra, that system exists and there's a series of people and there's some funding, some seed money to start it, whether that's owned by, CrossFit or someone else. And I know the IF3 does some of this, but I don't think all the competitions that, the big competitions a lot of people are going to, I'm not sure if they're probably going to be IF3 events, at least not in the immediate future. And so, the creation of that judging certification is like would be a huge, it would be the catalyst for a bunch of necessary changes. I think, it could, but I think it's chicken or the egg, right? Do you start with the movement standards and then and then this basically create like a weekend course on how to be a judge, or do you create the organization and then but magic wand, all those things would just exist right away.
How far do you think we are away from that, if ever getting there? I mean, and that has to be a realistic, option.
I don't really know. Admittedly, like I said, that's a big undertaking. It's a business, right? That's that's creating a business. It has to be treated in that way, and that's not something personally that I would be able to like spearhead or champion. So I have no idea. I would support it in any way that I could, but I'm not. That's not something that I have the knowledge or expertise to. Nor I think I'm not uniquely qualified to be the person to head that up. But I'd certainly support anyone who wanted to do that.